That's off to a wonderful start. I'm incredible today. I hope you guys are incredible too. This talk is about what's next. What happens after you launch your first product and you're off to the next one. So, some of you might still be working on that first product. So this talk will be interesting because, you might be able to duck and prepare for some of the things that are to come. Maybe you're in the middle of launching your second product, so I hope this will be really helpful. And maybe you're a very established company and you're struggling with some innovation challenges. A lot of the topics that I'll touch on will resonate there as well, because it's actually, at no matter what size, you'll run into these issues. What happens when you have to sort of learn how to move from one leg to the other? I've had a good fortune to learn at companies like Microsoft, launching my own company with FiftyThree, joining up with WeTransfer, so I'll share some of those lessons. But let's jump in with the really sad news. Launching your first product and getting that out and winning the market is incredibly hard. It's punishingly hard. The second product will be even harder. And the reason for this is that you invested all of your energy and built the entire company around that one product, right? It's like going to the gym and working one leg or working one arm really hard to win in arm wrestling and then having to do something else, right? So it turns out when you're building your second product, you need to rebuild your company and build a new product at the same time while running the ship, right? So this gets really, really complicated. It affects how you think about distribution, brand, your team, organization, and also your own psychology. And what I want to do now is unpack some of those topics. So starting at the big one, right? The most powerful thing you have when you have a winning product is distribution. What that means is there are people out there that have bought your product, that like your product, you have a relationship, right? This took a long time to put together. And you have some fans, right? So this is super powerful because you can show up and give them another product to try, right? It's sort of like, someone will listen to your second album because you have your first set of customers. But with distribution, as powerful as it is, it needs to be managed. It really needs to be thought about. Right? And I'll give a very simple example. Imagine you have a fruit stand and you're selling lots of fruit. So if you want to sell, along with the apples and peaches, no problem. But if your customers want some cheese, you have a problem because you're running a fruit stand, right? So you need to then really think through the entire distribution chain, what's going on there, and how to bring people in. With technology, this gets more opaque and a little bit, I would say, a little bit more muddled, right? You have distribution channels and marketing channels that pop up and come up and down all the time. Like, Instagram, for example, didn't exist a few years ago. Now you have this wave of direct-to-consumer companies that are taking familiar products at different price points, positioning them differently, and launching them as billion-dollar companies. So, Jen runs Away and sells a very similar or related product to Remova, which has traditionally sold through retail stores, right? It's kind of crazy that you can take very similar products and put them into different distribution channels with very different effect. And the true masters, the absolute masters of distribution are Amazon, right? They're so committed to distribution, they put it in their name, right? So it's all about, essentially, for Amazon, how many products can you get out to customers? And they've built an incredibly powerful company around this, right? So distribution is a big power. You got to respect it, and you got to learn how to work with it, because that's the one thing you gain by having your first product. And what you want to do now is use that muscle, use that power, and help use the distribution to then essentially launch your second product. There are a few things that now need to do. The first one is you need to actually think through all of your marketing and end customer touch points. A website that used to talk about just one product will talk about two products. An email that went out used to have to just talk about one product, now it will be about two products, right? It's a massive change. And, typically teams will hold off on building out some of these marketing tools, because you've got other features to ship and stuff to do. So, a lot of that investment or that absence of investment in marketing tooling sort of comes then to sort of hurt you or bite you at that point. So the people that will really feel a lot of pressure once you start within your company, once you introduce or want to introduce another product, is actually your marketing and sales team. So be really nice and kind to them, right? They'll have lots of questions on their mind, like how do we not confuse our customers? How are we going to price this product? What is the sales commission going to look like, right? So it's a really big hit on marketing and sales in particular. And the trick there is to really reframe the thinking. It's not about marketing or sales. It always has to be about the customer. What does the customer want? where are they most receptive to the new product experience, how can they best learn about it, and how can we bring most value to them, right? So there's a lot of churn that will happen in marketing and sales around you trying to position or get another product out. The important thing is not to lose sight of the customer. So make sure you use your distribution power. It's a huge, huge, huge source of momentum for you. Then there's brand. And brand, I think, is completely underutilized in the technology space. Like, other industries know this much better than the technology space. Brand can be a huge enabler or can be really, really difficult. And I'll give an example, right? Imagine I were to tell you, or just imagine this, I'm going to tell you that Gucci built a boat, right? Gucci has a boat. Gucci has a boat, and you're invited. You get to go. Do you want to get on the boat? Like, it's just think about it. Like, what will this be? Like, we'll get on the Spree, and we'll drive up with a Gucci boat. And you can actually, in your head, make a decision. Do I want to get onto the Gucci boat or not? I'm going to get on the Gucci boat. It's going to be a great ride. Like, in my mind, I can see it. I can see it. Now, on the other hand, if I were to tell you, what if Facebook made a boat? Would you get on? What would it be like? And we can put all the weird things, and the privacy concerns and the technical concerns, and Mark Zuckerberg aside, right? Is Zuckerberg going to be on the boat? But if we can put all of that aside, it's actually really difficult to reason about this, and it hasn't much to do with the fact that this is a technology company or a fashion company. It has something to do with the brand architecture, right? Facebook is a product. They used a product name as their company name. We don't know what a Gucci is, but we know what Gucci stands for. Right? And as a result, Gucci actually has a true parent brand and parent company that you can launch multiple products under. So when you think about a Facebook or a Slack or a Spotify, these are all product names, and a lot of technology companies launch as those product names because it gives tremendous focus and clarity. On the other hand, if you look at more parent companies and parent companies' names, they take much longer to build, but they allow you then to launch a family of products underneath that. Look at Apple. It took them actually 31 years to drop computer from the Apple computer in their name, right? So it takes a long, long time to do it. My guess is most, in particular in the technology space, most companies will find themselves with a product name. So what do? Right? So what if you want to start launching another product and your company is called after the first product that you launched? There's only one way to go, which is go up. You got to elevate what that brand stands for, right? You got to really, paint a bigger picture of where this company is going. And in order to elevate your brand, you actually have to go really, really deep. You got to dig really deep about why you got into the starting of a company or the starting of a business in the first place. There's actually a really interesting connection point now between my previous company, 53, and WeTransfer. Right? We both started with this really deep belief that the changing force of humankind is actually creativity. We deeply believe in creativity and everything that is around that. And so for WeTransfer, it's always been about, on the one side, you can say it's always been about sharing files or sending files in a very effortless way. But that's not really what motivated the founders. That's not really what motivated the team there. The team believes we're making creative work happen. We want to support creative work. We want to be behind great ideas that people are working on, right? It is about making the creative process more effortless. And that's something that resonated deeply with my previous company, our brand. We were all about 53. We stood for enabling creativity, making creativity more accessible. So there's a merging of a mind. So even the two companies coming together, we're able to look at what do our brands really bring to the table and what do they stand for. And it's simple. We stand for the movement of ideas. We want to be behind every great ideas. We want to build tools to move ideas. So now the product family, and this is sort of I would say it's a sneaky, it's a pro move. An acquisition actually is really quick and useful to bring in more products, right? But we're able to now paint a much broader picture of the creative process and the various tools that are required to move ideas forward. So the work that's now happening at WeTransfer is, of course, telling that story and raising that story and raising that awareness. So earlier this year, we did a first brand campaign, and I want to play that video because it's quite interesting, because the story is much more about getting people unstuck, getting people to actually step away from their computers and their machines, having a chance to get inspired by the world that's out there. Because ultimately, if we stand for ideas and creation and creativity, we've got to make sure that people have enough time to spend time with their inspiration. So we launched a campaign called Please Leave. I'll just play this video really short. It's 1 minute, but it's quite beautiful. Okay. Well, there is a very important voice track which should be happening here, so why don't we start this over? Let's go.
Have you ever thought about the other you? A you that you felt truer to? What would you say if you saw your life wasting away, stuck online, inhaling content, exhaling time? But oh, the you that flew the coop to prove that life could move. In any way, you got to choose. You left the screens, looking for the life between the life you have now and the life of your dreams. You found it there, swirling, twirling in the crisp fresh air. Everything you've read about, tweeted, liked, posted out. This is where it all comes from. The real world. That you can feel world. And when this other one of you returned to see what it could do, you poured your heart into the keys as quick as possible to see what to keep and what to free. Then, once again, it was time to leave.
Just stay a little bit longer for this talk, please. Don't leave me alone. Now, this all then maps together, right? When you look at this video, right, it introduces the idea of where WeTransfer wants to be with respect to the customer, right? We want to be behind the great ideas. We want to get out of the way. We want to build technologies that are effortless and that are beautiful. And now our products, right? And with this concept, right, of standing behind the great ideas, that gives now space for the product family to grow. We have WePresent, our media property, that is all about sparking ideas and telling untold creative stories that the world should hear. There's Collect, which is about gathering and putting together ready-made digital ideas so you can fuel them so you have fuel for your creative journey. There's Paper for sketching, writing, and drawing. It's about forming ideas. There's Paste, our team collaboration product, about bringing teams together and aligning them. And then, of course, there's our Transfer product, which is all about sharing ideas and getting those ideas out. All in all, right, we've mapped out now like a product family that's all about the movement of ideas. Now, how do you get this actually done? Okay, so this is all nice. Ultimately, if you want to have a set of tools or multiple tools, you need to think through how to actually organize a team around that. And one of my great mentors and advisors, Steven Sinofsky, actually, when you asked him, like, hey, Steven, how do you build an office suite? How do you build a set of tools? His response was like, well, you have to build a team to build a set of tools. And there's a very unintuitive but super important first decision you have to make when you put a team together to work on multiple products, which is which resources and what capabilities are going to be shared and which are going to be dedicated. Right? And that is a very strategic decision. There are easy distributions such as like, okay, we know where legal and finance is going to be shared. But when it comes to things like where do our engineers and designers sit, like what is going to be dedicated to the new product, what's going to be dedicated to the old product, right? These become quite interesting discussions. A lot of identities are wrapped into this, right? And so when you then start thinking about what is the rationale behind your organization, right? There are many ways of doing this. There are two very common ways. One, you organize by function, or you organize by product. So you can look at Microsoft, say, you look at the executive vice president level, and everyone is devoted towards the business, right? You'll have an EVP of Windows, you have an EVP of the cloud, you'll have an EVP of games. Apple is organized in a very different way. They're organized by function. They're organized, there's a senior vice president of hardware, there's a senior vice president of software, well, there was a senior vice president of design. Maybe there will be a new one, but they're organized by function. And the interesting thing is you can think about your own organization and ask yourself, are you organized more like Apple, or are you organized more like Microsoft and more functional, or more of a product and business unit way? Turns out, like, if you only have one product, you can't really distinguish, right? It's the same. Like, there is no additional level of distinction between you being functionally organized or organized based on a business group. And that is something that, like, psychologically is actually quite interesting, because people join believing that the organization is organized one way or the other, but the reality is, as long as there isn't a second or a third product, this doesn't reveal itself yet. Which gets us to the last piece, the psychology of all of this. And I'm going to just talk more about my experience, because one of the interesting things here is like when you move from one product to two products, or even the third product, at one point it is clear that the founding team that got a company started, usually around one product, needs to pass that product making inception capability onto the rest of the team. And there's two things that happen. Like the one side, it means like a founder who's quite controlling will have to give up control, right? And that's psychologically challenging. But the other thing is that also a team that oftentimes chose to join a certain effort because they believed in the founder, they actually place a huge responsibility and burden upon themselves, right? They don't want to mess up. They don't want to, they joined an exciting movement because they wanted to be part of it, and they don't want to be responsible for its demise, right? So it's like this really fascinating dance between like the founders and the rest of the team. But it is a transformation that needs to happen. And how it happens is by giving people permission, right? Giving people permission to fail, giving people permission to start small, giving people permission to not have all the answers, and giving people to take the next, giving people permission to take the next step. I'm going to emphasize the idea of starting small because a lot of people forget about that. You actually have to get all the way back to that genesis, that original state of mind, and that always starts really, really small. And that's when you start realizing what the truth is. If you want to get to your second product, what it really means is this. The second product is the refounding of your company. That's how you have to understand it, that's how you have to embrace it, and that's how you'll make it happen. Thank you.